right, happy to have my next guest on the show as the United Fight League's first event will take place on February the 18th in Mesa, Arizona. And obviously right now I have the CEO, Harrison Rogers, the COO, Sophia Magana, and of course, one of the brand ambassadors, Quentin Rampage Jackson on the show. How you doing, everyone?
Wonderful.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's definitely my pleasure. I'm really excited for what you guys are doing. I mean, Harrison, I want to start with you because what you're offering, medical insurance, life insurance to these fighters, and now you have $1 million contracts. I really feel like this is going to help level the playing field here in mixed martial arts. How excited are you for, what's to come?
Very excited. Sophia was about to give me a black eye for announcing the $1 million contract this early. But when Quentin and I announced that we're officially the first MMA league to offer medical insurance and life insurance, and of course a stake in the company, we got a lot of attention. A lot of people were commenting and reaching out and saying, well, this is great, but inevitably the trolls on the internet, the haters say this doesn't really matter until you get up in the big leagues and start taking care of the fighters who, make it their full-time career and need bigger purses. And I heard it loud and clear. Maybe I need to get thicker skin, but I took that as a challenge, and challenge accepted. So with how we are growing our business so methodically and hopefully sustainably, that's my background in business, to make sure that we are now committed to offering the bigger purses. And that being said, we're going to find our poster child. We want to show that we are able to bring over a big name who has built the brand that deserves big purses. And so that $1 million contract is going to happen before the end of the year.
So speaking of big names, I want to piggyback off of that for a second, because one of the biggest names in the sport, Francis Ngannou, just left the UFC. And one of the things that he was fighting for was health insurance for fighters. And, he's got a couple of big fights on the horizon, maybe a Tyson Fury boxing match. But what are the chances that you're going to be able to reel that big fish in?
Hey, if he's interested in $1 million contract, he might be able to get a higher price somewhere else. But if he is as adamant about achieving some of the things that he says he was, I hope he really takes a look at what we offer, because obviously the $1 million contract might be lower than what he could get in a boxing match, but with the healthcare, with shares in the company, he could help us not only grow the company but grow with us, and he can make a lot more money being a part of the company than one or two purses elsewhere. And so I'd love to be able to have that conversation with him that says, hey, let's put on our business caps here and not only make you a lot of money, but help continue to achieve the things he's been talking about.
Now, the answer to this next question might be an obvious one, but why hasn't there been health insurance for fighters in the past? I mean, why hasn't the UFC or, Bellator offered this? Does it just come down to money?
Honestly, as an employer of many employees, it is difficult to navigate the employee benefit world, where offering health care has a lot of intricacies that sometimes actually makes it even impossible to operate. But some of these new laws, like the Obamacare, things that now require large employers to offer health insurance, now it makes it pretty obvious that some of these organizations, it's about the money. They could have said before, oh, it's just impossible. Insurance carriers won't insure our employees or our business model. Now they have to. Insurance carriers are now required by law to offer health insurance to any large employer, and so that argument doesn't stick anymore. And but it still is a very big price tag, and so we've just had to get creative. And at United Fight League, luckily, I have several infrastructure capabilities to be able to roll that same employee benefits over to now our fighters, we're all, floodgates are open. We're changing the game.
And obviously, with the brand ambassadors that you have, we have Rampage Jackson here with us today, but you also have Frank Mir and Tito Ortiz. Those are three legends of the game here. What is that going to do to help elevate this promotion and kind of put you guys, at the top level, competing with the UFC and Bellator?
I'll let Rampage speak to that himself, but being able to hear from, get the credibility from these legends of what we're doing, and how important it is and how exciting it is for them to see. I mean, that lights a fire under me more than anything else. And so I love hearing from Rampage himself of his excitement, but Quentin and I actually just spent the weekend at Bellator, where there was a whole line of legends, there to respect Fedor's retirement. And I was able to talk to several of them about some of these changes we're making. And so not only the three legends who I have a pleasure of working with daily, it's really cool to see the legends all over the place, really keeping an eye out for what we're building.
Rampage, can you kind of piggyback off of that and let me know what you're feeling about the future here of the UFL?
I think the future for UFL is really bright, and I agree with some of the stuff Harrison was talking about earlier. He wants to step his game up because of some of the haters talking about the purse and everything. But I would like for the fans to understand and be patient with the UFL, because it's starting out. It's the beginning of something that could be huge, and I just know how the internet trolls are. There's a lot of haters and a lot of fans of MMA. They're hardcore fans and they love this sport just like I love the sport. MMA fans can be kind of boisterous and personable. And as a brand ambassador, I want to be the type of fighter that looks out for other fighters and stuff as well. So I just want the company to be successful and to be around forever. So, I feel like Harrison is making the right decisions, making the right, baby steps and moving forward. And I'm excited to be here, and I'm a little bit jealous that it wasn't a show like this when I was first starting out.
How did you and Harrison link up?
Oh, it was real easy. Frank Mir asked me to come and coach, do like a coach against Tito, and at a show in Florida. And then Harrison was promoting the show and doing everything, and I met him, and he was a great guy, and we became friends. And he kind of told me his vision for the for his promotion, and I loved it immediately.
So as far as long-term goals go, I mean, obviously baby steps, you want to start with this first event going off well, and then, go from there. But what are you hoping to achieve here over 2023 and maybe moving into next year?
What I'm most excited about, besides fighters having health insurance and life insurance and stake in the company, that's very exciting for fighters to have something like that, because it's needed. With having stake in the company, it's almost like having your own pension and stuff. But what I'm most excited about is me getting my own team and me going out and recruiting guys. I can continue to entertain the MMA fans with putting my little stain on MMA with my own team and stuff like that. I'm very excited about that.
And Rampage, we talked a little bit before we went live. I mentioned, you're only 44 years old, so you're still a young guy. You said you're starting to get back into training right now. What are the chances we're going to see you back in the cage competing maybe later this year or next year?
The sooner the better, because time stands still for no man. I've been working pretty hard about getting back in shape, getting my body back used to training 5-6 days a week, and I would love to do some boxing before I get too old, but who knows? Hopefully by the end of this year or next year, I might step in the cage or a boxing ring somewhere.
Okay, that's exciting. And Harrison, what about Frank and Tito? What have they said?
I mean, I am so amazed every day at hearing how much the fighter never dies in these guys. Like I've seen them get injured and go through some terrible surgeries, and they act like it's nothing. I'm like, man, I play basketball on Tuesday nights, and the next morning I can barely walk, and I'm 34 years old, and I'm crying about picking up my 3-year-old son. And so for what they do, day in and day out, I don't know what it would take for them to ever say that they're done fully fighting. I don't think even when they're actually done fighting, that they'll be done fighting mentally. So I would love to see any of them, if any of them actually do really want to, and they're training and have a opponent that they want to compete against. Man, UFL would be so honored to have those legends in our cage. But part of me as a business partner just wants them to put on a different type of hat and competitive mindset and really help UFL grow business wise. But maybe that's just the business guy in me, partner in me.
And obviously, when you're offering $1 million contract, that's going to reel a lot of people in. How, I guess, dive into that a little bit more and explain how that's going to play out. I'm assuming maybe you're not going to be able to offer everyone $1 million contracts, but who will you offer that to, and how is that going to transpire from event to event?
Yeah, my goal with that is basically to show that we're not just a regional promotion. It's one thing to be able to offer these incredible industry changing benefits that we are, but if we don't have the top talent that brings the audience and the eyes, it feels like those benefits are going off on deaf ears, and I don't want to do that. I want to show that these industry changing benefits are going to be part of not only our promotion, but the future of the industry in general, by being a big league, that is up there with UFC and Bellator, by having the talent. And it takes cash, not just benefits, to attract those talent. And so my goal is by saying that it gets some of these top talent fighters who are on the fence of re-signing with UFC or Bellator or whoever, like these people that retire, Luke Rockhold or Francis Ngannou, who have talked about these fighter advocacy type sound bites. Maybe they have a few left in the tank that they would come over for a big enough purse. And the more, like I said, the more eyes we can get on us, the more these benefits that we're providing start making noise.
And how is there like different tiers for the insurance? Like if a fighter competes once versus twice and so on, do they go into like a different tier?
Totally. We want exclusive fighters, obviously not exclusive in the sense where UFC or other promotions have so much control over their exclusive fighters. We just want to know that we are getting whether it's a Grand Prix or whether it's a certain amount of fights that year, that they're committed to growing their name with us. And if they sign an exclusive fight contract with us, they get insurance, they get shares in the company, they get life insurance and so much more. But if fighters want to come over because of an opponent and just kind of do a one and done fight just to see who's the toughest, we love that, but it's just not in our best interest to give them the whole benefit package.
Yeah,
it doesn't work if they're not our employee. Like, we can't cover an athlete if they're fighting for another MMA promotion. And so we openly explain that to them. Hey, just so you know, if the fighter's fighting in the bracket, then they're getting it. But if they're doing a one-off because they want to fight for other promotions, we totally respect that. And we never want to hold a fighter if they don't want to be with us, but we just can't offer them insurance because then they're not technically our employee.
that makes
Does that
sense.
make sense?
Oh, that makes complete sense. And Rampage, I wanted to ask you from a fighter's perspective, if you're a younger fighter and you want to be training full time and you want this to be, your full-time job, I have to imagine that's going to want to draw a lot of people in to fight for this promotion and have this be, what they do 100% of the time.
Oh yeah, that's very important for young fighters that's just starting out, because if you think about it, most young fighters can't really afford to have health insurance. And what if you training and you get hurt, you get injured, and you need a surgery, or what I'm saying, you break something which can totally happen. You break your hand, and it gets expensive. So I think that's very important, and I think a lot of fighters are going to be interested. I see a lot of interest already. You know, my son is he's still amateur right now, but I'm trying to steer him towards that right now. I said, look, son, they got some good going on, and I think it's smart for young fighters to look into it.
100%. And the streaming service is going to be free on Rumble. Can you talk a little bit more about that, Harrison?
Yeah. So we are excited and honored to say that we are the first combat sport league with Rumble. And, you know, Rumble is a growing platform. They obviously are very excited that we're bringing a whole new type of audience to them. That was up until Slap decided to go over to Rumble too. And I don't know if we consider that a combat league or not, but we feel like maybe we paved the way for Slap to come over. But Rumble is very excited to help us grow by pushing us, getting us a little bit more audience than what we might be able to get on other platforms. But what we really want to show is whether Rumble helps us or not, how much eyes we could bring no matter what network we go on. So, you know, understandably, a lot of networks or sponsors or whoever want to kind of see what we can do. And we're like, we'll show you. So we're going to blow up Rumble, get them a lot of eyes and attention, and then we'll see where we go from there. You know, whatever network sees what our value is, we're excited to prove it.
And
One other thing, sorry, I just want to point this out, is that with Rumble, we own all of the exclusive rights to our intellectual property versus partnering with a streaming platform that then would own our content. This way we can also provide the content to go back into the fighters' hands so they can keep using it as much as they want versus getting flagged for something they're partaking in, right? A lot of guys who are signed to certain promotions are signed with these big deals to big networks, and they can't even repost their own highlight reels. And this allows them to have that option. Not only that, but it allows us to have a complete open book of sponsorships for promotion for the fighters, right? Cannabis is a really big one right now. That market has a lot of money, and a lot of fighters do partake in cannabis, but a lot of networks won't host it because it's frowned upon. But we don't have that limitation. Same thing with people who are very big into their Second Amendment rights. We also don't have any restrictions there. Obviously, no hate speech or anything that is of any negative sort can be promoted or be sponsored, but it allows our fighters to just really use who they are and use their image for themselves to promote themselves without limiting them.
I love
But
it.
the pay-per-view is on Locals, who's Rumble's partner. So our prelims will start on Rumble, and then we'll have obviously a banner that will push it to Locals for the pay-per-view, and then the payper-view switches over. But on Rumble, we have our American Made MMA, which is our reality TV show. We have weekly go live with our Hall of Fame legends, Quentin, Frank, and Tito, to rewatch it, and Harrison. So it allows our audience to really be active with what we're doing versus just them seeing it on social media.
Makes sense. And I see you guys are doing a lot of great content on your YouTube channel. I went and followed that, so I'm sure you're bringing in a lot of fans that way as well. Now, the first event, as I mentioned earlier, takes place February the 18th in Mesa, Arizona. That's going to kick off a 4-city tour. You're going to Memphis, Phoenix, and Salt Lake City. Let's dive into the card, guys. And I want to start, Sophia, with you. We talked a little bit here before we went live. There's been some changes, so tell me what the main event is looking like now.
As of right now, the main event is Nikolai Varentikov versus Demarcus Jackson. Demarcus just came out of Bellator. Nikolai came off of the the Contender Series. Both of them are going to be bangers. They are going to be one bout in the 170 Grand Prix. The other half of that bracket is going to be Ivy Nixon versus Luis Iniguez. So it's really exciting to see both of those fights are going to happen back to back, and they're automatically going to know who they're going to fight next in the bracket for the semifinals. The winner of that will go to the championship round for the title belt and also the $10,000 cash prize. We also offer the winner of the championship Grand Prix a 1-year sponsorship with our energy drink. Well, it's a nootropic beverage, F3.
Okay, that's exciting.
So the 170 bracket is built out primarily around strikers. So the one thing that's really excited about it is like, you're just going to see these guys go in there and bang at each other. And that's, everyone wants to see that. They don't want to see just a grind out wrestling match. They want to see everyone swing. And that's exactly what we've built the brackets for. Obviously there's really good grapplers in every roundabout way, strong wrestlers, but everyone that's been picked has been built to put on a show and not just a grinding fest.
And that's what the fans love to see. They like to see guys that are going to go in there and get after it. And Rampage, you know plenty about that. Is there another fight on the card that hasn't been mentioned yet that you're really looking forward to?
No, I'm really looking forward to the main event that you were talking about, the two bangers. I love those type of fights.
Okay. What about yourself, Harrison? Is there one that stands out?
Yeah, I mean, we have two gentlemen that are fighting, Dan Huber and Ty Gorder, who, you know, don't maybe have the biggest following that are on our cards, but they've both fought in our feeder league in Freedom Fight Night, and they've both somehow lost. I don't want to say somehow because I love Shane Subnosky, but they both lost to Shane Subnosky in our feeder league, who he would probably be the first to admit that he was expected to lose both of them, and he knocked them both out. So it'll be kind of cool to see these two losses go against each other head to head and see kind of some redemption there, and then ultimately fight Shane again down the road in our Grand Prix.
Shane will also be here in Arizona, so it'll be exciting to have him like front row to see the winner of who fights. And then if he makes his way on the opposite side of the bracket, which is hosted in May, he will fight the winner of those two for the 185 division.
Sounds like you guys have a great first event here. I also see Hannah Guy is on the card. I know her fairly well, and she's fighting Melissa Parker. Can you speak to that fight a little bit?
Yeah, so Melissa Parker is a boxer. She was 6-0 as boxer and is making that transition to MMA. And Hannah Guy also made a recent transition with not only her management agency, but also her team that she's training with to become like a more rounded fighter. So both girls are coming off of losses, but they're both very exciting fighters. Hannah has a very scrappy style. She had a massive win over Valerie Loretta in Bellator. She was on the tough series contender. On the tough season, fighting at 135, but her true weight is 125. And she's also now coming down to 115, who Melissa Parker is also a 115. So hopefully these girls do well. The winner of this, I'm hoping, will go to the bracket for the 115 bracket as well. That will be starting in May. So it's exciting because everyone on the card, if they're not in the bracket, they're built for success to have a second option, right? The whole point of what we're trying to do is create our own system and our own universe to not only take care of fighters, but to help build fighters. You see a lot these days, like fighters might have an upside down record or a 500 record. For example, Ty Gorder, he's a phenomenal fighter and he's a massive scrapper, but he has a 500 record, which if you're not as a fan, they just look at the record and be like, oh, this guy's average, but you're not seeing who they're losing to. You're not seeing how they're lost. You don't how big of a fight preparation they have. And I think something is very similar with Melissa and Hannah. They weren't good at giving like the right opponents, and as females in the sport, you only get so many options as an amateur, and we always say like get as many amateur fights as you possibly can to keep building your fight IQ, and there's just not always that option, and that's not as spread out of a word as it should be for people. So I do believe that they need a little bit more chance to build as fighters before they get thrown in a Grand Prix where they just don't know who they're going to fight next, like the blind bracket, like some of these guys do.
Gotcha. Very well said, Sophia. Give me one other fight that we haven't discussed yet that stands out to you, because you seem to know this card frontwards and backwards. Maybe someone that the fans don't know, mainstream, an under the radar type of a fight.
Hey, I got two. I have Jose Delgado and Chris McCat. They're in the 145 championship Grand Prix. Jose Delgado has fought with us twice on Freedom Fight Night 2 and 3. As a pro, he's only fought 2 minutes and 43 seconds in 3 fights. He's had first round finishes in all of them. He has a striking background, but he was a high school wrestler. Chris McCat trains with Jose Delgado trains out of the MMA lab with Ben Henderson, Jared Candonier, Sean O'Malley. Chris McCat trains in California with Pub Swanson's team. So obviously he has a great wrestling background. Both guys have these phenomenal teams, and I can't release who's in the rest of the featherweight division yet because it hasn't been released. But you know that just with these two, they probably have the lowest records as pros, but they're probably the most exciting. Chris loves to bang and stand and bang, even though he has a wrestling background. Jose is a massive featherweight. He's like 6'1". And so you don't really get that many featherweights are that high. So he can use his reach to his advantage, and he can kick like no one's business. His last fight, he kicked his opponent so hard, it broke his arm, knocked the guy out, and then he hit the mat so hard, he came off the mat, and Jose was able to get another punch in. Obviously, we don't want anyone to get massive injuries, but when you see a fighter that young, he's only 23, when you see a fighter that young, that well-rounded, with that much power at that division, it's very exciting, because you wonder, is Chris going to be able to even get in for wrestling, especially knowing that Jose trains with some of the best wrestlers in MMA. Ben Henderson has been known for his phenomenal wrestling, and that's his main training partner for his camp. Very exciting. The next one is going to be for the women's 135 division. Zarina Turi, who is a local, very scrappy, very, very, very scrappy. That girl will probably fill up, I'm assuming, a quarter to half of the arena, and you're just going to hear pumpkin, pumpkin, and she is scrappy. Veronica Smolkova, bear with me on her last name's pronunciation. We're bringing her over from Austria. So obviously she's not as well known in the US circuit, but she's won she has a phenomenal background, and she's coming awful as the 1-0. So both girls are 1-0 and will be facing the championship Grand Prix. They probably also have the lowest records in the bantamweight division for the women, but these two girls walk through opponents and they take a beating on the way, which is exciting. Yeah. Obviously, because everyone in MMA kind of talks a little bit down on women, saying that they don't produce as well or they don't have the same excitement. You have Zarina, who is she's a robot. She'll just keep walking. And then you have Veronica, who's very skilled and technical. So it's going to be a good matchup either way. Veronica comes from the Eastern European circuit. So I'm really excited. She has the looks. She has the grit. Zarina, she hasn't gotten the opportunity for very big exposure yet. Regardless of what happens in this match, that girl will go a long way too, just based on resilience alone.
All right. So, I mean, again, it's going to be a great card. When are you guys going to start to announce the matchups for your next card?
So I'm going to plan on doing it fight week. Being that it is a bracket and it's a blind bracket, I didn't want the fighters for the February event to get too distracted with who's going to be in the May event. So I wanted them to focus on like what they have in front of them first. And then as fight week comes, we're going to start posting the other brackets. So it comes out like simultaneously.
Makes sense. And Harrison, we already talked earlier about the next couple of stops, Memphis, Phoenix, Salt Lake City. Are you guys going to be coming to the East Coast at some point in the near future?
Absolutely. This year, Rampage kind of let the cat out of the bag of another evolution of what UFL is going to be with teams and whatnot. And so this first year, 2023, is really about kind of getting our talent pool kind of solidified, and also a ranking system, if possible, by this bracket system, by the different rounds and whatnot. But then we also are going to be growing our talent pool by our Freedom Fight Nights throughout 2023, so that come 2024, we can not only have another Grand Prix type bracket to continually find out who our champions are of each weight class. We're going to roll out our team franchise model that is going to also revolutionize the MMA sport. There's been a lot of attempts before with team components to MMA, but I think with our robust scoring system and team strategy system that allows a lot more involvement to a team winning rather than just who the fighters who win based on 5 fights. It's like you can know who won the whole night after the first 2 or 3 fights, which is kind of boring. So with our a little bit more robust scoring system and point system, wait, did I say point system twice? scoring and points. They're kind of two different things. So that's going to have events all around the country, not just within the bracket system. So Sophia, though, that's going to have to also come with when we have a lot more infrastructure with them doing their own events. So Sophia isn't pulling her main beautiful hair out, trying to do not only the UFL events, but also every franchisee's events. And those will happen all over the country. So kind of in phase one right now with getting UFL's talent pool built. And then we'll roll out phase two, which is the whole franchise. We want to be the NBA of MMA. And so not only are we doing a whole bunch of things different just at the UFL level with our fighters and benefits and structure, we're completely reinventing the MMA world with our phase two franchisee approach.
So
which that kind of our logo. That's why we have 6 stars on the top and 6 stars on the bottom, because we're going to have 6 teams on each side of the country that will be involved in this point system. And guys like Rampage Jackson will have his city or state will be Tennessee. So they'll represent a state or that area of the country where their team will technically be fighting out of, but they'll remain at their home teams. But we'll just have facilities that eventually will start popping up, if that makes sense.
That makes total sense. I love it. Rampage, how are you as a coach? How does that strike a fancy for you? Does it give you the same type of rush or accomplishment as a coach versus when you were a fighter?
Well, unfortunately, I don't feel like coaching is my calling. So I won't be the team's coach, so I would find them, a good coach, but, I would be like the owner of the team, and I'll be there helping them out every step of the way and everything, but I wouldn't do them any dishonor by coaching them.
Okay. All right.
I don't know if you've seen my coaching skills on the tough, but I'm not a coach.
I actually Quentin season of Tough, ripping doors off. It was great.
Well, that's where he thrives at. Is what I love is he's not trying to kid anybody about what his strengths and weaknesses are by saying he's the best coach. He's actually a pretty savvy businessman, and so what you guys are going to start seeing these parts of him coming through with the reality show and with the development of the United Fight League, but he's looking at his franchise through the lens of what I hope the next franchise owners look through it as well. It's like, if you're the owner of the Phoenix Suns, you don't necessarily have to be the owner, the coach, the GM, all these other things. At the beginning, somebody might want to be all those things just because of where they're at in their market of their state or whatever. But Rampage, he knows he's got access to a lot of talent that are great coaches, that are great people that could do his athletes a better service. But what Rampage is that he's humble and not talking about is he is the biggest hype man. He's very quiet. He does it kind of under the surface. He has that one-on-one relationship with his fighters that I see it as a huge I wish he would let that out more, because it means so much, but he'll let his fighters know how much he loves and appreciates them and gets them hyped more than I think people realize. So I don't know if that was too long-winded.
Not at all. And, Harrison, we've seen Rampage as an actor. The A-Team was a great movie. We know his comedic chops. He's a funny guy. So are you going to try and utilize that and help that with the promotion as it grows?
It's been hard. What I love is how our relationship continues to evolve. I get to see little bits and pieces of his personality that I think the world has yet to see, but is in for a cool experience, because he'll let out his comedic, relief. Like he can make anybody laugh. But I kid you not, his business savvy is coming through, and I'm really excited for him to put on a little bit more of a serious hat that people are going to fear his business savvy just as much as his across the cage gloves.
Okay, that's exciting. Can I give a little suggestion of something that I feel like you should try and implement?
Please.
So I'll sit on my couch and I'll watch YouTube clips of Rampage being interviewed by Ariel Helwani for hours, and I'll just crack up laughing. I think you need to get Helwani there at some of the events and just film them talking.
Absolutely. That stuff isn't scripted. You know it's not. That stuff is just completely real, and you never know where it's going to go.
What do you think of that, Rampage?
Yeah, it's always a good time with Ariel Helwani, but you just got to be careful with that guy. I've done interviews. I've done interviews with him when one cost me a 4-year relationship and the other one got me sued. So I learned my lesson with that guy. He asks some difficult stuff, and I have this bad habit about trying to be real all the time and trying to be honest with everything. But you know, in this world, you just can't be honest about a lot of stuff. You know, these days you can get canceled, you can get sued. Just gotta be careful what you say. So I've learned a lot getting interviewed by that guy. So I just gotta have my right head on if I start doing more interviews with that guy.
Fair enough. Well, I know you guys are all busy. You got a lot to get to, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time. But before we do close out, is there anything that if you want to say, plug, tell people where to go follow you on social media? I'm just going to leave the floor up to you guys for the final words.
Yeah, obviously follow us on all of our major platforms: Instagram, Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, United Fight League, just United Fight League, super easy. We'll be posting a lot for the upcoming card. Everyone can follow. There will be like no stone unturned for what you can see and follow on social media to push for the prelims and the pay-per-view event. And then get little snippets on Rumble and watch us as we build our process through American Made MMA, which will start being released February 10th on Rumble. So see season 2, February 10th on Rumble, and watch all of Quentin's hilarious humor talking about teabagging everyone.
I haven't teabagged anybody in a long time. I have one thing to add. I would love for the hardcore MMA fans to jump on board and support us, because I think this is what Harrison is doing. He's trying to change the sport of MMA, and it's going to take a whole village. It's going to take all of us MMA fans, people that love the sport, to come together and support United Fight League and help us grow. And this is a opportunity for the whole sport to grow, because if this works out like I think it will, I think other events, other promotions will have to step their game up with treating fighters better.
Harrison, what do you have to say to that?
Yeah, I was literally gonna say that, but probably a lot less not as articulate. So thank you, Rampage. I guess just to kind of follow up is I agree with Quentin that it's going to take time. And so the patience and the commitment from the fans that want to see this succeed, so many fans and whatnot have always said that they want to see a promotion do these types of things. Well, now that we're doing them, we need their support. And that doesn't mean we need their money. It means we need their support by watching, tuning in, and commenting and sharing without the skepticism. I get the skepticism. Everybody's like, oh, I bet they're going to be a 2 event and then be done and blah, 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 blah. I mean, I get the skepticism, but if you could be more supportive when people are finally trying to do what we've been begging a promotion to do for so long, that'll go a long way. Especially for the fighters that are putting their, risking their health and bodies to put on great shows. They have shares in the company, which as it succeeds, it's not hey, Harrison and Quentin and Frank and Tito and Sophia get rich. This is we don't even have to have a fighters union of how we're building it, because the more the company succeeds, the bigger the dividend checks are going to be for fighters forever. And the more fighters we get on, the more cheerleaders we're going to have built within the whole system and organization itself. Because why would you try to support anywhere else when this is what takes care of you every single quarter? And so I get the skepticism, but like Quentin says, it's going to take a village. Give us a chance. Give us the time to build this thing and support every way you can.
I love it. I can tell you, I'm definitely cheering for you guys to be a massive success. I definitely think that the first event's looking fantastic. Can't wait to watch it on Rumble. I appreciate you all doing this, and hopefully we can chat again down the line.
All right,
Thank
You're the
you.
man. I appreciate you.
Thank you.